Hey everybody, I'm Navah Hopkins, and this is SEO in 2025.
Nava, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
So this might catch some of you by surprise because I am definitely a PPC girl or paid media girl. But my number one tip is actually to focus on non-login forums, things like Quora, Reddit, but a couple of the other nice niche vertical ones as well. And the reason why that is so incredibly important is because this provides a really useful way to bypass some of those ranking questions, i.e., beating out your competitors on those more competitive search terms. But then also on the paid side, you can kind of sneak in there because there are a lot more search result pages that actually put the forums at the top above paid ads. And of course, there are a lot of great creative insights you can gain for both your paid and organic efforts.
Got you. Okay, so a holistic approach there as well between paid search and SEO. You're focusing on questions there, so appearing within the answers, I guess, of those appropriate questions for your industry. So are you talking about placing a question and answering it yourselves, or being involved in...
It's both. It's
Okay.
100% both. And it's actually very useful to have a login that is your branded login. It's one that people can tell it's obviously you so that you can kind of shape the conversation and put some questions out there. But it's also really helpful to kind of have those anonymous ones where you can get people's honest takes on you and your brand, but then also some of the topics that are related to your brand. So, for example, I had the pleasure of reading a really lovely Reddit thread about Optimizer. I also had the heartbreak of reading a really negative thread about Optimizer. People will say anything and everything on social media and on these forums. It is important to develop a thick skin, but that's a really important kind of sub tip on this. But the value of reading this and responding and kind of teasing out some of those questions, again, being transparent when you're clearly getting information, but just reading the information and upvoting things or downvoting things, it's okay to be kind of anonymous. It's really useful to get that honest take because people tend to be really nice to your face. They don't want to hurt your feelings, but you can get some really useful feedback about your customer service team. You can get some really useful feedback about usability in your tool. You can get some really useful feedback about your pricing compared to your competitors. There's a whole plethora of amazing pieces there. But the other really useful piece, when you are thinking about the topics you're going after for content, the topics you're going after for your paid media campaigns, there is a real cost associated with creating that content and having it rank organically. And then also, of course, getting your listing at the top of the page, if top of the page is top of the page on the SERP. And so it's really important that you invest in the right topics. So checking out those forums is a really useful way to do so. Now, I will circle back on the point I made about non-login. Discord, Slack are amazing resources. You should participate and join and even consider hosting your own for your best customers. But those are not going to be how you rank. Those are going to be how you get feedback. So if your pure goal is feedback, you probably do want to create a curated group that will be respectful and will honor the rules of engagement for feedback. If your goal is pure ranking, 100% those non-login forums are the way to go.
I guess my concern about the anonymous login would be what would happen if the customer, if the other users find out that it's actually the brand, but being anonymous. I mean, is that a likely scenario that they would discover that it's the brand?
It depends on who you are and what you're posting. If you post something super innocent of, oh, that's really interesting, they're probably not going to figure it out. But if you ask really probing questions or say, here's what this company does and here's all the things about it, and it comes off very much like you're in a salesy tone, then sure, they'll probably figure it out. So if you're going to go with the anonymous route where the point is to get that feedback, you have to kind of also rein yourself in of what you're going to ask. If you're going specifically for, hey, I work for Optimizer, or hey, I work for Majestic, and I'd love to understand some of these problems you're talking about, do you mind if we DM, or do you mind listing them out here and I can take that back to my product team? They're just different conversations. So if the goal is to rank, you should not be anonymous. The goal is to show that you're present and to show that you're engaged. But if your goal is feedback, the most honest feedback will be when they do not know who you are. Because, and also they don't have to be responsible for what they say. So people tend to be maybe a little bit cruder or meaner when they don't have to actually have their responsibility linked. So for example, on LinkedIn is just as lovely and wonderful and will actually help you rank as well, but it's not going to be that same forum conversation. LinkedIn is much more focused on, here's a topic, here's a person that ranks well, here are some posts that are interesting, but you still effectively need a login to fully engage with that content. Reddit and Quora let you kind of have a freemium guest approach that is super useful for brands that are trying to bypass that friction layer of a login and the friction layer of competitive search terms, whether it's on paid or just content.
Okay, great. Okay, that's a legitimate reason for having an anonymous login as well, certainly as well. And when you're logging in as a brand, I've seen some brands, I feel, do this effectively, where they're logging in, they're answering questions around their industry, but they're saying, look, I may be biased because I'm from this brand. So heads up, that's exactly who I represent. However, from my perspective, this is our viewpoint. So full disclosure type of posts. Are those the types of posts that you would recommend?
100%. And I actually typically will go a step further, and I'll name competitors when I talk about our tool. So one of the reasons why it's good to treat your competitors as friends and to have a friendly competition as opposed to a really ruthless, cutthroat competition is that ultimately we all go to the same events. We all are talking to the same people. And if you are a friendly competitor or a partner tool, an affiliate tool, it's very easy for your friends to talk about you and say, okay, I'm Navah from Optimizer. I have these functionalities that are just as great. But say you want something on the simpler side, or like you're a little bit more beginner, Optio is a great choice. Say you are super on the enterprise side and you're looking to go hyper into enterprise, Fluency and Sky are going to be great choices. So it's just a matter of cultivating those friendships. I will say that one of the reasons I think some brands lean into and some brands lean away from influencer marketing is there's a certain degree of authenticity that when you know someone truly loves the tool and they share that they love it, not because they were paid to say that they love it, but they genuinely do, that is a legitimate reason. So for example, Optimizer, we have a Friends of Optimizer program where we invite people to share their feedback and we ask them for feedback and they beta test. We do not pay these people. So when they share their amazing perspective, that is their unpaid perspective. There are other brands out there that will pay and have affiliate links associated with sharing that positive content. So when you're thinking about those forums and rankings, that's another consideration is the content being posted by someone where it's very clearly, or people can put two and two together that this is a paid promotion, it's essentially an advertorial, or is this someone's genuine feelings about a product or service? And so I actually think it's far more important that you have disclosure with the influencers, that they are disclosing that this is a paid promotion or that this is that they have a paid partnership than it is for the brand, because the brand can ultimately say like, hey, listen, I'm going to be biased about myself. This is obviously I'm going to promote myself. The moment an influencer kind of puts their name out there and puts their clout associated with the brand and it doesn't quite go so well, that's where I see a bigger risk. So just consider that also as you're thinking about how you want to navigate those forums, especially knowing how mean people can be on said forums.
Well, disclosure, authenticity, Virtue, I would imagine. I've heard you talking about virtue in marketing before.
Yes. So, one of the things Fred and I, Fred Vallis, he's one of the co-founders at Optimizer, we talk about quite a bit is the scaling virtue. Essentially, that there are a lot of people out there that feel like we have to be evil to do our job. There's a lot of things in marketing that feel kind of icky with the privacy issues, with deceptive policies and practices in marketing. There's a whole black hat SEO industry around tactics that may or may not be above board. And there's a lot of people that actually exit marketing not because they were done with it. Like, people still wanted to pay them for their services. They just wanted to be done. They wanted to do what they felt was good. But the problem is you can only do so much good one-to-one. So one of the reasons I'm in software is I found out throughout my career that I do best when I can help a lot of people with the least amount of effort. So one of the reasons why Optimizer has been kind of opening up a number of our studies and sharing a lot of data is scaling that virtue, bringing that level of transparency. And so when we think about forums and topics, these are good kind of thought leader topics to influence the forums. Sharing data that only we could share because we have access to all of these accounts and we can kind of share these trends. And we're doing so from a place of goodness. We're just looking to share that information. People can do with it what they want, as opposed to we're going to charge you for this report and you're going to pay X amount and we're just doing it for money. Like, there's if you're doing something for good and the point is to do good and you happen to make money, it's a much healthier mindset than if I'm gonna make a whole bunch of money, and if I happen to do good, nice, but I'm doing this for the money. It's just they're very different outlooks, and you make very different choices based off of those outlooks.
And in terms of where you share the information, you've talked about Quora, you've talked about Reddit. Is the place to be these massive branded discussion boards nowadays, or is there still a place sometimes for fairly small niche forums and being a better place for certain industry sectors?
100%. 100%. So I talk about Quora and Reddit as kind of the tithe that we have to pay to rank, or the tithe we have to pay to collect information in mass. Where I have my most productive conversations are actually little Discord communities that are focused on digital marketing. They are locked behind a login. You have to be accepted into the group. There are very specific rules. People know exactly who you are because you got accepted into this group. And if you do something that is not abiding by the rules, you will be kicked out of the group. Another great forum is Slack. There are a lot of really great Slack groups. The amazing PPC chat run by Julie. She has done an amazing job migrating PPC chat, which for almost 2 decades has been running on Twitter/X, and now is migrated over to Slack. And it's an amazing group. Lots of great information. And you actually get to talk, not every time, but Ginny Marvin will join quite a bit. So when you're looking at a log-in group where it's a little bit more private, there's a more kind of human connection, you get a richer connection. But the price you pay is that there's just not going to be as many people. So the statistical significance of the findings are going to be limited. It's going to be more anecdotal data. When you're looking at larger groups, they are, of course, going to have lots and lots of potential eyeballs, but you can't really control or moderate how it goes. So I personally don't actually like Reddit or Quora very much. Reddit less than Quora for my personal use, but for my work use, I of course will engage with it. And the reason for that is that there's essentially 2 people that will be on Reddit. An exceptionally helpful person who posts very useful tutorials and is super detailed and helpful and nice. And then people that love to make others feel bad about themselves for how stupid they are for going for XYZ thing or for engaging in this conversation or this, that, and the other thing. So I tend to prefer kindness and engagement. So I don't like going to Reddit very much, but every once in a while I'll check out some subreddits on gaming or some subreddits on not so much marketing. I find that the marketing ones, they're hit or miss, but on verticals specifically, so things like travel, legal, those are some really good subreddits. There's some really good subreddits on DIY. There's some really good subreddits with computers. So those are some good verticals if you're looking to get started. If you are in those verticals, those can be very useful.
Brilliant. Okay, well, if an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
So I'm going to preface this. This is not me attempting to be preachy or judgmental or anything like that. Preface out of the way, I really think we all need to stop focusing on how dubious Google is and focus a little bit more on our business and the business metrics and actually doing the things needed to succeed. So I see a lot of people complain on these forums, on LinkedIn, on these login groups of all the ways that Google has wronged them. And there are things Google has done that are absolutely bad, absolutely should not have done 100%. But the way that you move forward is by giving them constructive criticism, being specific, and then focusing on your business, potentially looking at other channels. I think not enough people are paying attention to Microsoft, not enough people are paying attention to Amazon. And then, of course, with these non-login forums, this is a really powerful way to influence the conversation. And people are starting to begin their searches on these forums. So take maybe 20% of the time you would have spent complaining or crying or shaking your fist at Google and allocate that time into, let me check out 3 subreddits. I have my carved out non-movable time during the week that I'm going to check out these subreddits, or that I'm going to participate in a login group.
Navah Hopkins is evangelist at Optimizer, and you can find her over at optimizer.com, spelled Optmyzr. Navah, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.